2017 red Rubicon Recon. This is my daily ride, daily driver. It's got affectionately called the little red Lego block. The reason being behind all that is it's built from a box. Go shopping in the catalog, find cool parts, plug them in, bolt them up, screw them on, and lo and behold, you have a daily driver that gets modded in a hurry over a weekend without a lot of downtime. There wasn't a lot of fabrication put into this. It's mostly all bolt-on components. Very different approach from what some do, and they try to keep costs down and put their craftsmanship into things. I had the initial problem is I don't have a daily driver other than this little all-weather vehicle. So being able to bolt stuff to it and make the mod over a weekend to keep it running so I can go to work in the morning was always a very good thing to do. So we'll start up front. 37-inch tire shooting at you right there. It's a KM3. I decided to try out the new ones to see how noisy they were. Got some rave reviews, and I got a hell of a deal from Parts Warehouse. And they have a lifetime road hazard warranty. Screw one up, take it back to them, get a new one. So I'll go for that. You might notice all the stickers here. Yeah, back in the days when I was young and foolish, I used to race little cars on the street. Did some racing on a circle track and actually did some drag racing. So if you had a hot rod car, it wasn't a hot rod car until you put stickers on it. Back then, they were our sponsors, ? Today, it's just was an idea that started with a metal cloak sticker and quickly grew to, well, if I put one on there, let me put another one on there to keep it company. And yes, everything you see there, plus some, is actually installed in the Jeep. It adds to this whole mystique of, hey, that thing looks like a mall crawler. You can't really seriously take that on the trail, can you? Well, the answer is, yeah, and you guys all know that. So up front, I went with the aluminized bumper from Quadratec. Tried to keep the weight down. The weight's the enemy on this. I've had big heavy steel bumpers in the past. They put a lot of weight and tear on the suspension, and before too long, your 5,500 pound truck weighs 7,000 pounds, and I really didn't want that to happen to this one. A couple of aluminum shackles up front. The braking strength on those is somewhere north of 10,000, 14,000 pounds, something like that. They're pretty good. They come from Gear America. Smittybilt supplies the winch. It is the XO2. It is 10,000 pounds. It's got a nice remote control to it. And I have master pulls, 5/16 cable. I have 125 feet of that. Braking strength is 21,700 pounds. 5/16 cable, not 3/8. It's smaller. I went with 125 because over the last couple of years, I had come up short, just a little short, on some of the poles where I was at. So I figured if it would hold the 125, I would use the 125 on it. My recovery bag has an additional 100 feet of winch cable in it and 50 feet of tow strap in there, so I can pretty much get it anything, anywhere if I have to go recover it. And I have used every bit of my recovery gear in one rescue operation. So nothing new up front. You got the LED headlights that came with it. I put yellow fogs in, their LED fogs, so I could see a little bit better when the weather was out. What else have we got going on up front here? Let's go look down, see what's down here. Got lots of goodies down in here. Yes, I'm on coilovers. King 2.0 shocks. That's a 1-inch diameter shaft on it. There's 12 inches worth of travel in each shock. They're guaranteed for a long goddamn time. I've asked King a couple of times when I should start rebuilding them, and they said for what I do, if I rebuild them every 4 or 5 years, that'd be good. There's a remote reservoir there. It's got compression adjusting on it. I can adjust all the way down, so this rides like a 72 Cadillac, or I can adjust all the way up, where I've actually run this thing off a 4-foot jump. Not bottomed out terrible. and it was only just a set down and go. One of the things that I did up front with the axle is put the C's, gussets on the C's, and that's when I found out this isn't a normal axle. This is a J8 axle, or some variation thereof. I have RCV CVs in there. They are not the 300Ms because I wanted everything else to live. I have a custom set of alloy seals, tube seals in there, because the inside diameter of this is much smaller than 2 inches. So if somebody says they have a J8 axle and they put in drop-in seals, they don't know what they have. The orange stuff, yep, RCV. I'm sorry, Reed Racing. My stock hubs, spindles, I'm sorry, were bent right straight from the factory. Replaced those, started solving a lot of my front end woes and issues. The aluminum tie rod and drag link round out the front for performance and stiffening things up. Also, down in there somewhere is a forged track bar. Forged track bars front and rear to kind of keep all of the foolishness from death wobble away. I have a interesting sway bar set up. It's a dual right sway bar. One soft, one not so soft. Together, when you lock them both together, this thing corners like a Porsche. When you disconnect them, it corners more like a trophy truck. Gives me lots of articulation. Don't have to get out of the vehicle. It's all run with an air cylinder right here and a sliding lock. Interesting performance out of all that. So let's go back around this way. The little minor things. I got some auxiliary trail lights and the huge snorkel. I get more crap for having a snorkel on this thing, but my looking at it was, if you look down here, this is where air comes into the Jeep. Notice that's right above the headlight. Where do you splash water in? You splash water in right here. Fills up the airbox. And it's also hot down there. Temperatures under the hood are crazy hot. So I wanted to get cooler air into there, and I also wanted to prevent the water intrusion problem. So that's why the snorkel bolts in. Snorkel was a bit of a pain in the ass to put in. Excuse my language. You have to cut the metal panel out here, right here. You have to notch this area down here and be able to mount everything in. This fender has got to come off. As easy as that sounds, that is an entire day evolution to put all that together. So go underneath, take a look at the way things are laid out on this side. If you notice, my brake line looks a little funny. Much the same way at Kevin's, my brake lines go on the upper part of the 4-link system and then to the axle. It's a little hard to see right here. That way they're never too short. I can have full droop on this and not have to worry about screwing up the brake lines or ever breaking them. Less movement in them, work a hell of a lot better. Rock Slide Engineering. I love these guys. I'm an old guy with bad knees. So when you open up the door, the metal step falls down. When you close the door, the metal step comes up. They rattle a little bit. If I were to do this over again, I would put the extra armor on them because they do have some dents in them. One of the biggest dents is right here. It moved it about 3/4 of an inch right on the seam line. Must have been a good day that day. Fuel wheels. They are 17 by 9s wrapped with 37 1250 BF Goodrich KM3s. Try them out because they were the new tire on the market. They're lightweight. The tire and wheel combination is right at 100 pounds. Everything else went up to 125 or bigger. So more weight, harder to get going, harder to stop, all that fun stuff. Those wheels are soon to be changed out with a set of KMC grenade crawls. They will be true beadlocks instead of the fake ones that are on there. We'll keep the tires for now. We'll see what goes on for the next generation of tire. In the back, I have the Smittybilt tire carrier. That post right there is what carries all of the weight of the tire the carrier. It bolts straight to the frame. So I have zero weight being carried by the fancy little tailgate. We had an owie on the trail back last winter, so we ended up with a Smittybilt rear bumper. I labored quite a bit over the design on this one, and I ended up with the ones with the tubes on the side. I figure if nothing else, that helps protect the corner of the Jeep in case I get bounced on a rock. And God knows I get bounced on a rock every now and again. It's always nice to be between a rock and a hard place in your Jeep. Okay, the funny little thing in the rear tire, that is a rear view camera and third brake light. The rear view camera is down here, and this be the third brake light from Alpine. It was part of the stereo install. It provides me the typical backup camera, if you will. Doesn't see anything up here, sees it all down there. It works out pretty well. I like it. You also see another techno gadget right here, which looks like a camera. That camera is my rear view mirror. Yes, it's digital. How do you see out that rear window with that big tire in there? The answer is BIR and that little camera. Works out extremely well. So we'll go inside here. This is the nice thing about this tire carrier. One touch, everything opens up, goes with it, just runs on the stop. So everybody knows I like to eat. So I have a place where I can set up, make sandwiches. On top of setting up to make sandwiches, we just wired in the ARB. It's a refrigerator. Yes, indeed. I got tired of hauling around cold water in the liquid form that started out as ice. So this will work as a fridge or a freezer. It's got a 50-quart capacity, and from everything I've read on it, that's supposed to be the bee's knees. It's on a Tough Stuff rack. It's all wired in, hence the 2 batteries. Because now, if I run that, I don't have to worry about running out of power. You see this big empty hole right here? That's usually where I end up with my toolbox. Slide that in there. I have my recovery gear that usually ends up there. I usually end up with extra fluids, because more times than not, nobody thinks to bring things like oil, antifreeze, brake fluid, or stuff to unseize bolts. So this whole big area right here will carry all of that stuff. And normally my recovery gear comes in 2 bags. My over-the-shoulder bag will go in the back seat, and everything else will stay right in there. TerraFlex puts in the rear rack. It's really a 2-fold thing. So everything that sits in here really isn't tied down. It's for easy access and whatnot, and I'll be changing that in the future. But I needed a way to keep it in one place. Would really suck to flip this thing over and have a toolbox come banging into my head. So this guy is mounted in to the roll bar right there on either side, and supports all of my soft stuff. Nothing up here weighs more than, a pound or so. Exception of the wood maybe. There's a net over the top to kind of keep it all in place. So if I do flip this thing upside down, at least everything will stay put. I got tired of the jack being out in the weather, so we mounted it to the roll bar. There you go. You can see the bracket right there. Again, this is part of that Lego block construct. Bolts right in. The fire extinguisher is relatively easy to get as long as you can open the back of the Jeep. After listening to Kevin's video and the reasoning behind where he put his and why he put it there, I'm going to have to rethink of where I'm going to mount this thing so I get at it faster. The problem with this Jeep is it's 4 seats. The passenger compartment is small, and the roll bar for the rear is too far aft to put it at the rear door, and the roll bar midships at the B pillar is too close to the seat and doesn't work. It doesn't lend itself to mounting a fire extinguisher there. My other tool sitting right here snapped to the back is an axe in case I need to readjust some of the foliage around the Jeep or get myself a good bite into something. It's got a real simple, just rubber clamps. Strap it in, stays put. Just a simple way to carry everything. So that's the back end of the Jeep. Let's close everything up. 2 antennas, one for the CB, one for the VHF. Cool little mount here to keep it from banging up too bad. But as you can see, it does a pretty good job of beating up the top anyway. So we'll change that here in the future. In the back, nothing special. Leather seats, nice floor mats, grab handles. Medical kit right here, an easy grab, just a place to store junk. Sometimes my spare radio goes in there, sometimes all kinds of other stuff goes in there. Just a way to stay organized and keep it from floating around the floor. Inside, here we go. We are a Rubicon Recon. That means everything be leather. Everything be fancy. So, as Garner said, it's like your comfy easy chair playing a video game. So as the video game boots up, that is my rear view camera. As you can see, it looks into the garage behind me. As I turn the phone around, you can see me, but you can't see the garage behind me very easily this way. So we'll just leave it like this, and you can see what's behind. It also doubles as a camera to play short segments in case people do stupid things. So the stereo system, it's got all kinds of good stuff to it. Sounds pretty damn good. It's an Alpine 209 WRA. It's got all kinds of neat features to it. You can show all kinds of crazy things in it. I bought it because it had an off-road section to it, that when you turn up the off-road side, it gives you the cool little things like tilt and lean, and it gives you a compass. What I learned about this was, let's turn the radio down. What I learned about this is you cannot upload GPS tracks to it. What I really wanted to do was upload GPS tracks to it, and from the description that I saw, it looked like you could. Psych! Nope, you can't. So this little guy comes from Moab Armor. There we go. Moab Armor. This is a magnetic mount. I got a magnetic plate on my 7-inch tablet. Got a magnetic plate on my phone. It mounts right up there, and it stays put in the roughest conditions. It's flipping crazy. So we go up here. Jeep's got a CAN bus electrical system in it. That means nothing interfaces to it well. So I wired direct to the battery, to the S-Pod, and all of my auxiliaries, my lights, my sway lock, and the noisy air compressor all wire in up there. So makes life a little bit easier, and it's pretty much mess free. So there's a radio, VHF 60 watt from Rugged Radios. This is my primary comms. I absolutely love this thing. Been able to talk as far away as 15 miles on this reliably. Out on the highway, it's just stupid crazy easy to talk on. No noise, no static. Don't get a lot of people breaking in on it because the channels aren't readily used by everybody. Going back to, yes, here we go, Cobra 75. It's the weather version. It's ACB. It's noisy as hell. It's all analog. I have this tuned as best as I can tune it, and it's still a noisy piece. It's here as a backup radio. It's for comms for people that don't have either VHF or GMRS. I have handhelds. I usually give a handheld away to somebody that doesn't have comms, at least for the use of the day. That way we can work on reliable comms. And by the end of the day, they usually like the idea enough where they end up buying one. So that's the interior. There's nothing crazy in here, just standard seat belts. I don't have a cage in here yet. I'm looking at doing the sport cage up front. The only problem is there's not a lot of room in this place. Sport cage puts a tube up here, puts another tube in here, and puts a couple of tubes down the center. Gets a little claustrophobic after a while. So that be the little red Rubicon. Let me go switch off power and maybe hit one or two of the other little cool things. So up front, on all four corners, you see a Schrader valve. I have onboard air underneath the seat, which plumbs to a manifold under the hood, and right there is an air output. I have one for each wheel. Pretty easy to do. Air up, air down, works really well. Underneath the hood, nothing special. Just a very busy modern car engine, which means, holy crap, there's an engine in there somewhere. There's not a lot of room here. Over in the corner, you'll see some yellow and some red. Those are two Optima Group 34 batteries in a Genesis dual battery tray. Wanted to do that to have some extra power, and it can function as its own jump start by using the secondary battery. Over here, I have S-Pod. I have the manifold for my onboard air, plus a way to air up somebody else's tire, because the onboard air doesn't do that very well. One other little bit, I have the full PSC system minus the RAM. Steering is more like a 72 Cadillac. Yeah, you're turning something, but you don't really know it's connected there. But it isn't as vague. It's just over boosted, which makes it real nice for when you're off on the trail. The hood vents, yep, they got opened up. They needed to be functional. I don't understand why our manufacturers put cool vents in, and they're not functional, so I made them functional. So now, thank you for enjoying the walk around here of the little red Lego block. It is my daily driver, built with lots of care, a few friends, and she goes just about anywhere. Minor modifications to tuning. I have a stack-on controller from Superchips, which gives me 3 driving styles. I can go in economy, trailer tow, which sharpens up the throttle response, and then full performance, which is just a little crazy. It's not wheel spinning, tire smoke, shredding things, throwing it all over the place crazy, but it definitely wakes up the performance. That combined with the 78mm throttle body, that little Mercedes 3.6 in there, it runs all right. Get somewhere between 17 and 20 miles a gallon with this, depending on how fast I go. Best mileage happens right around 58 miles an hour, believe it or not. 488 gears in both sides, 37-inch mud tires, and I can still get 20 miles a gallon if I just take a nice leisurely ride with it. If I'm running up closer to the 65 and 70 mile an hour range, I'm seeing a pretty consistent 16 to 17. So thanks for entertaining me, and that's a little walk around of the little red Lego block.